Okay, now on to our main presentation. Our main guests are candidates for commissioner and sheriff. From left to right, we have, well, your right, my left. Aaron Goldsmith, who's running for commissioner in District 1. Dennis Frazier, running for commissioner from District 3. Then Megan Felber, running for commissioner from District 5. And finally, after her, is Gail Wickles, running for sheriff. We also have two candidates who were unable to make it to our March meeting. Gary Foote, at the end, running for state senate from District 5, and Allison Rudolph, running for state delegate, also from District 5. Each guest will get 5 minutes to speak. We have a timer. She's sitting right there. And the timer will hold the yellow card when there's 1 minute remaining in your time. That's your warning. And then when time expires, she'll hold up the red card. And that's pretty much the entire procedure. After all the guests have spoken, there will be a question and answer session with the audience. Okay? So, Aaron, I think you're...
All right. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for letting me be here with you tonight. I'm Aaron M. Goldsmith, and I'm running for County Commissioner here in Carroll County, District 1. I'm running because families deserve steady, accountable leadership. Leadership that doesn't leave people behind and doesn't overlook rural communities and speaks up when it matters most. My background isn't in politics, it's in real life. I've worked across retail, manufacturing, engineering, education, and business. Today, I run and own Goldsmith Education, an educational company that partners with community colleges that brings hands-on STEM programs to students across Maryland. But my story actually starts earlier. As the oldest of 3, I had to step up early to help raise my sisters while supporting my mom as she went back to school to build a better future for our family. And what I learned is this: opportunity changes everything, but only if people have access to it. That's why I'm concerned about the direction we're seeing in Carroll County. Families are feeling pressure, rising costs, economic uncertainty, and too many decisions are being made without real community input. We see it in our schools. We see it in the MPRP Power Line project and the growing concerns about large-scale development across our local borders and what that means for our land, our infrastructure, and our future. These issues are about one thing: who has a voice and whether government listens. And that's why local government matters. County government determines whether families thrive or just get by. I'm running because leadership should be grounded in integrity, follow-through, and accountability. You deserve leaders who don't cut corners, especially when it comes to public safety, infrastructure, education, and long-term planning. Looking ahead, we need to build real pathways into skilled careers. Support economic growth with quality jobs. Invest responsibly in infrastructure and take mental health and public health seriously. We need to focus on what people deal with every day: cost of living, wages, healthcare, and job security. We need to rebuild trust by showing up, listening, and treating people with respect. And we need to stay focused on local issues, not national talking points, and offer solutions, not noise, not division. People here aren't asking for anything unreasonable. They want good schools, responsible infrastructure, economic opportunity that strengthens our communities, and they want to be heard. That's it. And that's what we should be fighting for. But none of this happens without you. In rural communities like ours, volunteers aren't just helpful. You are the campaign. You are how we show up. You are how we build trust, and you are how we win. Campaigns like this don't just run on energy, they run on resources. So if you are able, I'm asking for your help. $26 for 2026. I have members of my group with lanyards on with our QR code. You can donate that way. Or you can go to our ActBlue website as well, Aaron M. Goldsmith. But this is your chance to be part of building a campaign we need to compete And we need to win right here in Carroll County. So I'm not just asking for your support tonight. I am asking for a partnership. And let's show people what it looks like when leadership really listens. And let's go win this right here in Carroll County. I am Aaron M. Goldsmith. I am running for County Commissioner here in Carroll County for District 1. And I would be honored to earn your trust and your support tonight. I just want to say thank you. And on November 3rd, vote Goldsmith for Commissioner.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Frazier, and I'm running for County Commissioner in District 3. If you live anywhere close to where we are right now, you live in District 3. District 3 is Westminster and surrounding area. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm married to Debbie. I have 2 grown children, Christopher and Sarah, and 1 grandchild, Lainey. I have a bachelor's degree from Towson and a master's degree from Western Maryland College. I was a teacher for 41 years. I taught in both public and private schools. If my name sounds familiar, and I hope it does, it's because I was County Commissioner from 2014 to 2022. You can only be County Commissioner for 2 consecutive terms, then you have to step down. Some people have asked me why I would like to run again. I want to run because I feel I still have something to offer the people of Carroll County. And I would still like to continue to work to make Carroll County the best place to live, to work, and to play. My community service includes being the past president of my homeowners association. And you know how much those people are loved. I was also a member of the Tree Commission, the Parks Board. I was a planning and zoning commissioner, and a city councilman, all for the city of Westminster. When I did all of that, I was a Republican. I could not, in good conscience, stay with the Republican Party when a convicted felon became the head of the party. But worse for me anyway, is the fact that no high-ranking Republicans will push back on him. But they do go around and justify everything that he's doing. During my time as commissioner, I led the push for solar in Carroll County. We changed the rules on how much solar homeowners are allowed to have on their property and on their rooftops. We also put 19 acres of solar on county-owned property. That solar saved the county millions of dollars over a short period of time. Carroll County also received the Soul Smart Award during that time for making access to solar easier. I say we because while I push for all of these things, no one commissioner can do anything by themselves. You have to have the other commissioners to work with you. If reelected, I plan to look for more county-owned land in which to put solar panels on as well. Another accomplishment that I'm proud of is that during my time, we got the AAA bond rating from all 3 bond rating agencies. Commissioner Wance, county staff, and myself went up to New York, as the county does every year, to talk to the bond rating agencies. Now, it took us 2 years, but we finally got the AAA from all 3 agencies. What this means is every time Carroll County puts bonds out, we save money. Right now, Carroll County has over $150 million out in bonds. That saved us a lot of money, that AAA rating. One piece of legislation that I have pushed for in the past, but got no traction, but I'm going to push again, is that if you are a homeowner in Carroll County and you have lived in Carroll County for at least a decade, once you reach the age of 67, your property tax does not go up. Most people at the age of 67 have fixed income, and property taxes should be fixed as well. We should not be we should not be taxing our seniors out of their homes. If they want to leave for other reasons, that's fine. I want to end by talking about getting out and vote, because my 1 minute silence came up. Getting out to vote. The more people that vote, the better it will be for us. The less people that vote, the more we the people and the Moms for Liberty will have an influence on who actually gets elected. You can dilute that influence by having you, your friends, your families all get out and vote. If we have a big turnout at the polls, we can change this. Small turnout, the people that are in there will stay in there. Thank you for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Hello. I'm Megan Felber. I am running for commissioner in District 5, which is the Sykesville-Eldersburg area. And as I was preparing what I was going to say tonight, I realized that this is an anniversary for me tonight because I'm so happy to be here because last year the Democratic Club meeting in April was the first Democratic Club meeting I came to. So, because it was a year this week that I had just lost my job after 17 years at the FDA due to DOGE cuts the week before, and I was mad at the administration, at the situation, at the helplessness in the face of everything, and I really felt that I needed to do something. So I Googled Democratic organizations in Carroll County, and you all came up. And I'm glad I did. This was the meeting that I think there were a lot of the community groups that were presenting that night, and there was a huge crowd here, and I came in and I sat in the back, and I felt energized and hopeful after a week of feeling very much the opposite. So I appreciate you being here. Because at this time last year too, I was also getting frustrated watching the county level conversations that were around schools, around library funding, watching the budget process going through, and I felt that we really needed some rationality and some different voices on the commissioners. And I felt that if a seat could be flipped, it could be one of our district commissioner seats. That was before we had 10 other candidates in Carroll County, so I feel a little bit different about our prospects now than I might have felt a year ago. So 12 months later, here I am. I'm running for commissioner. I'm running to win. The situation is a little bit different from what I thought I was going to be running into, that I thought I was going to have an open seat, because Ed Rothstein was going to be termed out and it was going to be an open election. Now I'm potentially going to be up against an appointed incumbent in the position, so it's a little different race than I was expecting, but I'm still very hopeful. Our neighbors are still feeling the change and uncertainty day to day. I met a voter recently who visibly relaxed when they heard that I was a former federal employee because they are still a federal employee who's scared of losing their job, of losing their health insurance, and furthermore of the critical program that they are managing for the American people going away. It's hitting our neighbors. Everyone is still feeling this. So while I've been keeping my focus closer to home, we're in another county budget season with the same issues that we've had for years, and the incumbents are talking about the future like nothing needs to be addressed. I'm running on the premise that we must have a Carroll County where all can learn, live, and thrive. We need to stabilize and fortify our budget so that we can fund our schools, our libraries, our community college, and other endeavors that provide education for all ages and appropriate wages for those that are working within those institutions. We need to make efforts to ensure that the county is affordable and can provide housing and jobs that can meet the needs of the county, taking steps to ensure that we can thrive in the future. We need to be playing to our strengths, building our agricultural heritage into an industry that can remain the backbone of our county. Engage not just in planning, but in implementation practices that allow plans to come to fruition rather than gathering dust on the shelves with other plans of the past. We need to ensure that we are building and diversifying the revenue streams in our county so that we can weather what is coming next. We need leaders that are willing to embrace the future. They need to be open to innovative ideas and have the flexibility and the elasticity to adapt when it is necessary. Not because Carroll County has to become different, but because we want to keep what we love about it. The space, the safety, the great schools, top-notch libraries, and we want to build a foundation for the next generations. After a career in government, I've worked in environments that require agility, the ability to rethink solutions, engage in problem solving, and push forward not just with good plans, but good implementation. I'm used to doing the work and collaborating with people with different expertise, and I'm able to celebrate and encourage new ideas, not be threatened by them. And that is a theme I have heard over and over and over again when talking to people. So thanks to all of you for last year being a soft landing for me. You being here and having done so much work over the years has built the foundation for us to be where we are today. But the work is just beginning, as my colleagues have already stated. We need each and every one of you to get there. I also tonight have ways that you can sign up to volunteer, sign up to just keep in touch on my email list, ways that you can donate. We are working really hard to get a lot of signs purchased for our district because the Republicans already have their signs going up too. So that's our goal right now. So if anyone can give to that, we would appreciate it. And then also just any materials that you can share with friends and neighbors. We need all of you because other voices can and will win in Carroll County, but it's going to be a team effort. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for extending to me the opportunity to introduce myself to you. My name is Gail Wickless, and I'll be running for Carroll County Sheriff. I've been a Carroll County resident for over 40 years and recently retired after 20 years of service in Baltimore County Police Department as a sworn police officer. Prior to that, I had 18 years as a civilian for Baltimore County, so I know both sides of that. I am married. I have 2 grown daughters, 2 grown stepsons. My previous affiliations have been with Girl Scouts, 4-H, and Special Olympics. They were always a passion of mine. My decision to apply for this position is based on wanting to restore integrity to the office. The current administration has filled high-ranking positions in the sheriff's office from outside agencies. This limits the possibility of officers who have studied for promotion for months to be eliminated from that promotion. This is a problem. What ends up happening is the officers that have spent time studying for those positions and now not getting promoted end up looking for other places to go so that they can move further up the ladder, as opposed to being squashed at the bottom. So eventually we're losing potentially very dedicated officers to other agencies. After we've trained them, we've spent money training them, and we've lost them. The other passion that I have is the fact that the crime doesn't stop at the county line. It goes further than that. Things that happen in Carroll County also happen in other surrounding agencies. And we need to communicate with that. Unfortunately, that communication doesn't seem to be that good anymore. So we need to open that communication with other agencies. I still maintain a very good relationship with people in Baltimore County, and we do border Baltimore County, so I find that to be a plus. You know, we've had cars broken into, burglaries. They're the same people that are doing it all over the place. And if we share that information, then we can solve those crimes, and we can make that crime rate go down further. I do believe that the community needs to be involved, which is another thing that I do not think right now we have. Nobody's listening to the community. They're not asking, what can the police department do to help you, to help your community? We're not having a voice, and we need that. We desperately need community involvement. How do you solve a crime? A lot of times it's by going out and talking to people. And my 20 years as a police officer, I did that. It wouldn't be uncommon for me to walk up to somebody sitting on a stoop and say, hey, we just had something happen over here. Can you tell me something about that? And their answer would be, I was waiting to see if you were going to ask. They have the information. They're just not going to step up to you and give it to you. You have to reach out to them because they don't know right now how police are going to respond to them. So you have to have that open communication. That to me is important. If elected, I would start by evaluating the programs that I know have been lost and see if these programs benefit the department. If they do, we're reinstating them. If they don't, we're going to delete them. If it's not a program that's helping the community, we don't need it. I would like to see more SROs in the schools. I think that's important. I think it's important that we get to young people before they have a problem and encourage them that this might be a route you want to take, because we do pull a lot of people from the schools, young people, and that's our future. We need to be in there. We need to be the positive role model. We need them to see that this isn't a bad job. Maybe you want to try. And like all of my other people who spoke before me, eloquently I might add, and made it tough for me, we do need people to come out and vote. We do need donations. We do have cards back there that we can hand out for donations if you're willing to do that. We appreciate it. And again, thank you very much for letting me come here and speak with you. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
John? Yeah. Thank you very much for allowing me to come this month. I wasn't able to come last month. As those of you who may have followed the bookstore when I had it open know, I have a son who is very into sports ball and plays 3 sports all year round, and this is his senior year at Winners Mill. And had I been here that night instead of there, I would have missed Winners Mill winning the semifinals for the regional champions and then going on to become regional champs. So that was pretty exciting. I do know many of you from the bookstore. I did not just kind of pop onto the scene 5 years ago when I opened the bookstore. I've been thinking a lot about years and numbers lately, and I realized this morning that I was 23 years old when my husband and I bought our first house in Westminster. The fact that our kids don't have a chance probably of doing that right now is something that really bothers me. So I have been here for living, working, raising my family, volunteering for the last 25 years. My husband Eric and I have 2 kids. Ben will graduate from Winners Mill this spring. Our daughter Carolyn will graduate from American University next month. I just basically cry all the time. In general, I am not a really emotional person, but right now, you say it, I'll weep. 5 years ago, my sister and I, both teachers, have a lot of experience in education in Carroll County, worked for Carroll County Public Schools for many years. I am an adjunct faculty member at McDaniel, where I teach writing. We opened the bookstore, and at the end of 2025, I decided that the time had come that I couldn't do it by myself anymore and I needed to close it. At first, the hardest part for me, and what is still very hard for me and I get sad about just about every single day, was closing that physical space, because over and over again in the 5 years that we were open, I kept hearing from people that it was so important for them to see themselves in a space in Carroll County, that was not something that they were used to. That was not something that their kids were used to. So no longer offering that was heartbreaking. The other thing that I was really sad about was giving up the voice that I had developed in the time that the bookstore was open. And also giving up the fight that I had decided I was willing to participate in the time that the bookstore was open. And in the beginning of 2026, the more I thought about it, I realized that maybe I couldn't have that physical space anymore, but there was absolutely no reason I had to give up my voice or give up the fight. And running for office seemed to me to be the best possible way to hold on to those 2 things. So when I say give up my voice, I mean it became a platform for speaking up for progressive issues in Westminster and the surrounding county. And to me, a big part of that was A, normalizing being a Democrat in Carroll County, that it was not such a, I was very proud to have a sign in downtown Westminster in a prominent location that said, vote for Kamala Harris. And I had some really great conversations with people who couldn't believe there was anyone who put a sign up in downtown Westminster that said, vote for Kamala Harris. So I was very proud of that. I want to be able to keep doing that. When I say learning to fight and becoming comfortable with the fight. The second time I was nominated by the public library system for the Light of Carroll Award, I publicly declined that nomination and was very clear that it was because I did not believe that the president of Moms for Liberty, who was pushing to ban books in our schools, should also be nominated for a literary award. year ago, when 287G agreements were not part of our common conversation, I filed a Public Information Act request to get the exact details on our county sheriff's relationship with ICE and how many folks were being detained in our Carroll County Detention Center and how our Carroll County Sheriff's Office was working with ICE. And I made all of that information public a year ago and held a rally in downtown Westminster so that our immigrant neighbors would understand that there are people here who support them. When I was publicly accused of sexualizing children by a school board member because I don't believe in banning books, I filed a cease and desist order against that school board member and filed paperwork with the state of Maryland to have him removed from the Carroll County School Board. That ultimately didn't work, but no matter how hard we work, ultimately we're not all going to get elected either. If winning was the only reason to do all of this, we wouldn't all do it. Okay? Like Megan said, I'm running to win. I want to win. I think it's possible. I think it's possible for all of us to win. But to me, what's more important is the months that we have between now and November and using our voice and fighting the fight and doing that together.
Good evening. My name is Gary Foote, and I am running to be your state senator for Maryland State District 5. Now, how many of you are here tonight because you saw my dazzling billboard display on 140 as you were coming into Westminster? No. How many of you are here because you saw my tastefully designed yard signs scattered throughout the county? No again. How many of you are here because you saw my full-page ad in Guns and Ammo magazine? Okay, you didn't see those things because they don't exist. And they won't. Because one of the things many of you talked when we had a talkback tour last fall, one of the #1 issues was getting money out of politics. I have a very foolproof plan for making that happen. I don't have any. But what's really more important is that yes, we need to take the opportunity to listen to what you have to say. Now, I have all kinds of ideas of what we need to do to make Carroll County better, but most of those ideas don't really matter if they're not things that you want. Please tell me you are not going to make your decision in November based on who has the biggest sign on Main Street. Please tell me you are not going to make your decision based on who has the tastiest snacks at their fundraiser. In 1987, then President Ronald Reagan nominated Robert Bork, you can hold your booze for later, for the Supreme Court. During the confirmation hearings, Senator Ted Kennedy said this, describing Bork's theoretical America: a dystopian, regressive land where women would be reduced to seeking back alley abortions. We would eat meals at segregated lunch counters. Police would be free to conduct midnight raids. The doors of federal courts would be shut on the fingers of millions of citizens. Thankfully, Bork was never confirmed. But 40 years later, that hypothetical description sounds hauntingly familiar. And it happened on our watch. You want to know why I'm running? There it is. Let's fix this together. Democrats in Carroll County have been silent for too long. You said something else last fall. You want people who are actually going to listen. Now, before you leave here tonight, two things are going to happen. Number one, price of gasoline is going to go up by 10 cents a gallon. And number two, the United States will spend another $1 billion on weapons supposedly meant to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age. Please tell me you have better ideas for that money. Your job tonight is to give me your thoughts. I will have failed if you leave here without having spoken to me. That's why I'm here. I'm running, and you need to tell me what it is we need to do. Because obviously, what you want, what you are passionate about, that's what you're willing to spend money on. Now, I realize I haven't told you about my wife, my kids, my family, my background. That's what else you need to do before you leave tonight. You find me, and I will tell you anything you wish to know. Again, whoops, I'm sorry. I'm Gary Foote. I'm running for State Senate, District 5. Thanks for your time.
Good evening, I'm Diana Bergman. I'm also running for House of Delegates, District 5. And my questions to all the candidates up there is, what is your #1 priority on how to engage voters and encourage them to come out to vote?
Hi. Yeah, it's working there. I'm Aaron M. Goldsmith, District 1, Carroll County Commissioner. Just by trying to show them the respect and that we are genuinely interested in everyone having a seat at the table. Letting everyone know that to be part of this community, you have to step up and say something. And I'm going to listen. And we are all planning to listen as far as I'm aware. And that's what you guys need, is a listening leader who will follow through on what you need, not what the leader wants to do in the back room.
I'll say, having run before, I go door to door. I knock on the doors, I talk to the people, I shake their hand, look them in the eye, ask them if they have any questions or concerns they want to bring up with me. That has worked very well in the past. But I also want to put out to everyone how important it is to get out and vote. I've won a few elections and I've lost a few. I lost an election one time by 12 votes. 12 votes. And during that election, I have to say, if the number of people that said they supported me actually came out and voted, I would have won by a landslide. Having support and telling you, I'm going to help you, vote you, whatever, is great, but you've got to show up at the polls. I'm going to emphasize that everywhere I go. Everyone's got to get out and vote. If you want this slate or any slate, or you want your voice to be heard, you've got to be at the polls.
And I think just to echo that again, I think getting in front of people, I think the other thing, and this is something that all of you can help with, for so long, there have not been Democrats on the ballot in Carroll County. That is what people are used to. That is the status quo. And every time I've talked to someone, no one realizes that. No one realizes that 40, 50% of the population has not had a voice in the government. And you need to let your friends know. You need, again, volunteering, helping, talking to your neighbors, I'm sorry, Gary, having a yard sign. But no, it isn't, because we're very used to not having democratic voices. And people need to know, because it's easy to not care when you feel like it doesn't matter. It matters.
I would say word of mouth. If you've heard something here that you absolutely think needs to be done, talk to everybody. Let them know what you've heard. This isn't all of Carroll County right here, but you can reach all of Carroll County by talking to your friends, your neighbors. Tell them what you heard and whether you thought it was good or you thought it was bad. We'll take both. But that's what you need to do. You need to communicate that. We need those voices.
So it obviously takes money to run, and that is on me, and it's not going to be my favorite part of all of this, but reaching out and asking people for money is definitely a thing that I'm going to have to do. After holding one fundraiser, I am committed to not holding any more ticketed events where the opportunity to talk with me and to let me know what it is that you think and what it is that you need comes with the price of a ticket. Megan and I walked the Freedom Trail in Sykesville on Friday morning and hoped that if it hadn't been so ridiculously rainy and cold, that we would have had more folks with us, but my dog Neptune rather enjoyed the time. And I pledged to bring one of my 3 dogs on every one of my walk and talks. But that's the main thing. Like, I want to get out. There's a group here that had invited me up to talk to them at the Tawnytown Library. And we had a great conversation, and then we're all very excited to see one another when we saw each other at the No Kings rally. So those kinds of things are what I'm more committed to do, to talking to people one-on-one, and sort of fundraising on my own time, as opposed to making that a prerequisite for getting to talk to people and getting to get the message out.
I heard some of you complaining that there was no parking in the Westminster, in the parking lot. I didn't have that problem because I rode my bike here. There are 1,000 miles of roads in Carroll County. I am going to ride down every one of them between now and November 3rd. I will ride past your house. I will talk to anybody who will give me the time of day. That's how I am going to communicate. And again, please tell me you are not voting because you saw someone's billboard sign.
I just wanted to say in response to Mr. Foote that we on the board are aware that parking is at a premium, as in non-existent. So we are working on some plans that may adjust that, maybe perhaps a different location, but those plans have not gone anywhere yet. They're just amorphous. So, but we know it. We know about it.
Thank you. Robert Hill from the thriving metropolis of Tawnytown. To start off, to paraphrase Renee Zellweger, you had me at hello, all of you. Assuming we have an election, free and fair elections this November, you have daunting tasks in front of you. There are generations of families here who have never voted for a Republican, never voted for a Democrat, who have always voted for the candidate with an R next to your name. The one thing we have in common is that we're all taxpayers. So just real quickly, what would be the best use that you could reach across the aisle to say that our tax money is going towards things here in Carroll County that would benefit all of us? Is there things that we could hone down on, some specifics that would help get some of these people to maybe consider voting for someone with a D next to their name with these ideas? Because you're going to be fiduciary stewards of all of us, not just the farmers or the people in the metropolitan area. So I'm just curious as to how we can help spread the word that you would be good stewards of our tax dollars here in Carroll County.
I guess this is here, so I'll just say, I've got 3 things that I want to work on: education, public health and safety, and affordability. When we talk about affordability in this county, 40% of early deaths are attributed to people who make lifestyle choices that lead them to some sort of long-term health problem that affects public health, that affects safety, that affects affordability. All kinds of things that we could be doing that would address, again, just things to help make communities more walkable, make good food more affordable. Again, I could go on, but I want to give everyone else a turn. Education, let me say this. Many of you might know that Dolly Parton has established a foundation where at birth, anyone who signs up, their child gets a book delivered once a month until they start preschool. And of course, the goal is to have everyone reading by 9. Again, you can't do that in Carroll County because no one wants to, for whatever reason, they don't want to put up the money, the matching funds that are required. On the other hand, my guess is the library would be more than happy to work with in fact, they have that on their website. Again, there's just so many people that don't know the things that are available. What would happen if you came to the library with a child once a week for every week from birth until they went to preschool? Again, there'd be a whole lot of things that we could do in the school system that would be, again, a whole lot more affordable and a whole lot more effective.
So I'd say the thing that I pledge to do differently is to listen, and I'm not going into this with an agenda of what I think our tax dollars should be spent on. I have done a whole lot of learning and a whole lot of listening just in the last couple months and can plan to continue to do that. I have been to organizations that I am fairly familiar with, such as today I toured our local domestic violence shelter. I have a background in working with both victims and perpetrators of domestic violence. And last week attended the advocacy workshop here at the library on how to advocate for more library funding. Something that I was already pretty familiar with, but it can never hurt to learn more. I will tell you that the 2 hours that I spent at the Pleasant Valley Fire Hall a couple of weeks ago were eye-opening to me. I had no idea that with the start of using professional fire and EMS in Carroll County, I had no idea the position that puts our volunteer firefighters and EMS workers in, and what that's doing to them financially. So, I don't have an answer for you right this minute on, what I would say, who should get the different slices of the pie. But I am absolutely willing to listen and learn all of the things that I recognize that I don't already know, rather than just going in with my own agenda and my own priorities based on what I do already know and what is already important to me.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm not sure what the police department right now could do to save money. Once I was in there, I could certainly find out. Of course, I'm not sure who gave the extra 50% raise to the current sheriff, but we could have probably held that off a little bit. Because I do believe that the crime rate goes down because of the officers, not because of the sheriff. And that includes me too. If you keep them happy, they're going to be out there, they're going to be doing their job. And that to me is what's important, is that they know that you care. And needless to say, I just went to the FOP meeting. I did not get the backing of the FOP. However, I did hear the frustration. And if those guys are that frustrated talking with me, then I can only imagine that they're not maybe doing the things that they could be because they're frustrated. And that needs to be fixed. And that's one of the things that I would ideally like to go in there, make them part of the department, make them part of what's going to change, what's not going to change. Make it their department. If you take ownership, you do a better job.
I think to echo a little bit of what Allison said, when I started this out, I very clearly laid out for myself, because when I was looking at this, again, we're coming from a place where we have not had a Democratic commissioner for years, and I had no idea what that would even look like to me. And so I set out key values for myself of prioritizing education, prioritizing livability and affordability in our community, and then also prioritizing that community building within it too. Those were the priorities, the values that I wanted to shape it. And as I've been having conversations, as I've been listening to people, I think I'm on the right track with that. I'm hearing the echoes of a lot of that other places. And so where a lot of this will come down to is, again, how we're going to get that done. And I think, echoing a lot of people up here, Dennis might have a little bit more, solid ideas. He's done this before. But we're working on what that's going to look like. There's been a lot of themes that have been coming out about this, of planning without implementation. That we have, Freedom District in and of itself has seen that for years. We have, we've experienced poor growth because we plan, we start working on it, and it goes away. And it's led to this haphazard development. And so I think we've seen a lot of that. And how can we take, we're in the middle of a master planning period right now. How can we take those plans and make them into something that's going to build the community? So I think we need some vision, we need some things. I'm starting to ramble, I'm sorry. But really that's where it's going to come down to, is how we can get those things done.
Being a former teacher for 41 years, my #1 priority is generally education. But I'm not talking about just the public schools, I'm talking about the library, Carroll Community College, anywhere. Education is a great equalizer. You can pull the population up by education. And the people that are against education, it's because they want to control what you're doing. If you don't know what's out there, that you can be controlled. That's why I worry about that committee that decides what books are good in libraries and so forth. And I love to hear age appropriate. I love to hear that. But who's going to decide what's age appropriate? Are the professionals that are paid and went to college and all, we'll call them librarians, that are in the school system, that know how to do that? Or are we going to have a committee mostly made of people that are either We the People or Moms Liberty? That committee, every single one of them, when it was first put together, was all those people. No one else from the outside was on that committee, by the way. Are they going to decide? So education's #1 for me. Public safety. If you don't have public safety, you don't have anything else. If you don't have a safe community, you're not going to get more businesses. People aren't going to stay there, they're going to move away. Public safety is very important. New sheriff would be very important. I'd also have to say, since someone brought up the sheriff's salary, he didn't come to commissioners for his salary increase. He went to the state delegation. They granted it, and then we had to pay for it. So just want to put that out there. All right, thank you.
All right, to answer the question, I would say public safety, infrastructure, and education as a whole would be the main ideas that we would focus on. And I would be pragmatic, I would be fact-based, and I would be transparent about why and how we're doing those things. Those are the ways you show the community that you are willing to actually work for them and work with them, rather than saying, I'm blue, I'm red, I'm going to be separated. And that's how I think I can walk across the aisle with almost any type of issue, being fact-based, pragmatic, and open to their ideas, and open to show you why I have the ideas.
My name's Catherine. I'm a public school librarian, so thank you to all of you who are pro-librarians. But what I don't know about Gail is police stuff. So I'm really just kind of curious of what issues do I mean, obviously I know there's a lot of things happening with ICE, but I don't even know like what issues to consider. I have a lot of friends who are police officers that I have a lot of respect for, but I know that there's a lot of cops who are not so great. And I know that there's a lot of negative things happening in Carroll County. But I was just hoping maybe you can give me some clarification as to what to keep my ears open for, or what thoughts you have on how we can make things general and better. I love the idea of the SROs. We have an SRO, but only sort of part-time because he's really at the middle school next door. So I love the idea of having more SROs. But what other things should I kind of be focusing on?
Well, I think everybody here is talking about the businesses. Businesses are important. I worked Washington Boulevard in Baltimore County. You guys are probably familiar with Washington Boulevard. Their Walmart had the biggest theft rate. I was there all the time. I worked with them, and we were able to reduce that quite a bit. As a matter of fact, if I wasn't working, some people didn't shop. So it's important to keep an interest in your businesses. Keep the crime down in your businesses. As far as ICE, now some people have said that ice is in the area. It's very possible. But before you call media on that, make sure that you know what you're doing. Because sometimes it might be some of our guys not in uniform handling a case that's an important case. That's why they're undercover. So the only thing that I would say is, no, we don't want ice in here. My address to the FOP, whether it was receptive or not, was we will entertain any criminal warrant that any agency has, because that's what we do. We're not letting criminals out on the street. So before you get out of the detention center, a criminal warrant check will be done. And if there is an open warrant, then obviously you get turned over to that agency through the procedure that there is in line. You notify that agency, they have X amount of time to respond. We will not do criminal or civil warrants. We will not, and I told our officers this, my job as a sheriff is to protect you as best I can. And if you're working with ICE officers who don't seem to have any guidelines like Maryland officers have, and something goes wrong, when they walk out the door, nothing happens to them. Our guys are the ones that are going to be holding the bag. So no, we will not work with ICE officers. If you have a criminal warrant, you send it to us. We're going to make sure it's a criminal warrant. We're going to make sure that it's been signed by a judge. We're going to take care of that for you. But we're not going to let you just come in and start, hey, I need your guys because we're going to kick in this door. We're not doing that. And some were receptive, some were not. But that's the policy that I intend to keep.
All right, this is just a quick follow-up to Gail. I'm sure you're probably already aware, but the Carroll County Police Accountability Board became active about, I'm going to say probably about 4 years ago. For the first couple of years, I was actually the chair of it. But, yeah, don't clap for that. Look, you can watch the video and watch me make a complete, idiot of myself. Anyway, but I would say if you haven't looked at some of those meetings, it might be something worthwhile, because part of the quarterly meetings that we would have involved dialogue with not just Sheriff's Department, but the municipal agencies as well, in terms of what they needed. What kinds of things could they get from our advisory board that would help them, develop programs in the community, that sort of thing. So that might be a good resource if you haven't already tapped into it.
I
That's
have
not really
not,
a
but
question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. You're welcome.
And I'll take any other advice that you have.
Yeah, we'll open the floor to suggestions too. We're all novices, except for Dennis. We're all doing this for the first time, so I know that these folks appreciate any ideas you have.
So, everything I see at the local level is thumb your nose at the state. And I just want to, and in my opinion, a lot of that ends up having negative consequences. So like solar on ag. When Dennis was on the board, it was max of 20. Then it was banned. And now you're seeing 30, 40 acres solar farms. So like, I just wanted to know what your opinions are on other situations of thumb your nose at the state that backfired.
What people don't realize, if you're county commissioner or county commissioners, the only power you have comes from the state. The state describes exactly what you can do, exactly what you cannot do. That's why I love it when the commissioners say, well, we're not following the state. You can't not follow the state. You can make a fool of yourself and say, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. But the state will come and tell you, yes, you are. The only power you have is given to you by the state. It is better to try to go and get along with the state than anything else. I was on the legislative committee for the county. We looked at all the bills that were being presented in Annapolis. There was 2 from each county and 2 from Baltimore City. We met on Zoom, and we looked at all the bills that are being presented. Do you think it's a good idea just to say no to the bills? No. It's a good idea to say, okay, these bills have this part that's pretty good, but we don't like this part over here. We can make this more palatable by maybe trying to suggest a change, make an amendment to the bill. You know, as you're looking at some of these bills, who's putting them forward, they're going to get passed. So let's try to make it as palatable for Carroll County as we possibly can. That's what I did when I was on the legislative committee, and others did as well. So you have to work with the state. You have to, there's no way around it. So let's try to work with them. When we go to conventions and do that, you pull them aside, you talk to them, you know, what are we doing? You know, go back and forth. That's the best way to handle it. If you thumb your nose at them, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get a thing. I'll make one other point if that's okay. The time that Hogan was governor, 8 years, Republican governor, what did our state delegation bring back for Carroll County? Nothing, except in a supplemental budget, which is a 1-year thing, and then they pull it out. Why do you think that is? I'll just stand up right there. Anyone else?
If I could answer.
Oh, because it won't.
Well, and I think too, you know, I think we hear a lot about this, but it's also, we don't have to make everything terrible. There, you know, and I'm coming from a different level. But within the federal government, you would see this all the time. Decisions come down that you may not like, but there's ways to work with things to get things, as I said, for the county, and to make things work for us. And instead of taking that antagonistic role, we can, even if it's not something super palatable to us, we can make it work for the county. And I think sometimes we've gotten into this position where, because the state is pushing something, our commissioners feel like they just shouldn't like it at all. Even if it's something that benefits us, it's because it's from the state, and we can't do that. And I think we have to find those places that we can work with them, get the things that we need, and build this into something that can be a positive for us. Gary.
Go ahead.
You go right ahead.
I think that it also goes back to that idea of not going into this with a personal agenda, but believing that we truly represent the citizens of Carroll County. The folks at the state level aren't stupid. They can look at our voting record. You know, 2/3 of the voters in Carroll County, which has to mean several Republicans, voted in favor of codifying the right to, a woman's right to choose into Maryland state law. And yet every session, our Maryland delegation is putting up bills to try to further limit that. That's not what the majority in Carroll County is asking for. That's what a small number of folks with a very specific agenda that we keep sending to Annapolis are asking for. So I think part of the reason why our current folks get as dismissed as they do is because they're not representing a minority statewide. You know, they're not representing this minority community in Carroll County. They're representing them and their friends and the folks who support their agenda, which is not even the majority of voters in Carroll County.
We seem to have a delegate who doesn't think his vote counts. So, he has basically stopped showing up. I say, elect Democrats. Our votes do count. And I don't think there's one person here who thinks, gee, I'm going to go to Annapolis and not get anything done. I did want to say something about affordability. And I would love to talk to Commissioner Frazier as far as some of his work with solar energy. Let's just all recognize that you cannot embargo the sun. There is no Strait of Hormuz that will cut off the supply. And again, recognize that In 1979, former President Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the White House. Shortly thereafter, another president, he's the guy who we named our county conference room after at the at the county office building. He laughed. He took those panels down. Imagine where we would be if we had gotten on the ball 40 years ago. By the way, those panels are now in a museum in China. Because they recognize how important, again, and quite honestly, the best solar cars are made by China, the best electric cars, and we can't get them because, of course, there are embargoes that we're not allowed. Those are not allowed to be imported. Again, there's a whole nother issue as far as affordability is concerned. Again, think about what your home, a lot of your bills, what would they be like if, you were relying on sunshine? You were sitting out on your porch on a sunny afternoon and saying, wow, I'm making money watching the sunshine.
I just wanted to add on to this question the gentleman asked. The pushback that I see from the county to the state is not with the commissioners. It's with the representative that sits in the minority whip's office, that I'm hoping that the two of you, whichever one it is, can get rid of him. Because all he wants to do is fight against the governor and whatever he's doing with his own agenda. So please tell us how you can do that with our help, because by all means, I hope I don't speak alone, that we want him gone.
Well, simple, vote for me.
Robert and I were having kind of a side conversation here on the sheriff's office, and if in Carroll County there would be an extra layer of sexism related to a female candidate. One could hope not, but if anybody in this room starts talking to someone and they go off on that, I just want to share something with you. Right now in Baltimore, we have a city sheriff female, Sabrina Tapp Harper, running. We have a Captain Sarah Smith as first captain of St. Mary's. We have Anita Rosser, Prince George's County Assistant Chief Sheriff. We have Melissa Hyatt, sworn in as the first female Chief of Police in the Baltimore County Police Department. You are not unique. You're among one of many very prominent and qualified people.
Correct. Thank you.
So I had a question. Recently I've been following on the news that since Carroll County is considered a rural county, we've been seeing Senator Chris Van Hollen and Representative Congressman Johnny Olszewski secure millions of dollars to Carroll County. And a lot of those funds that they're securing for us, that's coming from the federal government, is actually helping Carroll County address public health issues and how they're assigning those funds, helping those organizations. So my question is, how do you each plan to collaborate with all level of government agency to make sure that our local organizations are receiving the funds and they're going to filter into Carroll County residents that reside here?
All right, obviously it's going to be my first time as a commissioner, so my idea is to ask for help from the people who are experts at this and show me how to budget it properly, how to implement it properly. This is something I have not dealt with in and of itself since I don't get funds from the federal government. So I need to be shown by experts that show us how to do this. I'll look for examples in other places in Maryland and across the US to find someone who's done something similar and find ways to implement that here the best we can.
Nobody you? No, I'm just kidding. We do have people in the county government that actually, their job is to work with the federal and state government when grants and all come in. Their job is to make sure the grants are done properly and so that every I is dotted and T's are crossed and so forth, so we use the money the correct way. Another way is when we go down to MACO, the Maryland Association of Counties, conferences. Other counties are doing this. We talk to those people from other counties. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but if they're doing it this way or that way, we talk to their representatives, their commissioners, and they come back and tell us. Then when we get back here, we give them a call, we go back and forth, so we know how to best implement with the money's coming, from the federal government, and the best way to get more of it.
Well, and that's, I think that's a good answer. Good job. I'm glad I'm following you. But I think to piggyback off that too, again, coming from the government, I know who's doing the work in the government, and it is not the commissioners. You're dealing with the civil servants who are doing this day in and day out, and how we can best support them to do the job that they have to do, and make sure that they feel that they can bring things to the table too. I think that's a critical piece of this. So, I'm coming into this with someone who's been on the other side of this for my entire career. I'm depending on the people that know what they're doing to get this done. Does anyone want to add anything?
So I think the most important thing that you learn as a teacher is when to say, I don't know. And certainly again and again, there are all kinds of things that have come up during this campaign so far where I don't know. But I think what's so important is to recognize whether you're running or whether you're elected is we are so fortunate to be surrounded by folks who are experts in their field. And the important thing is not to elect someone who tells you that they're an expert in all of the fields, because they're lying. Like, that's just not true. But are they willing to listen and take advice from the people who are experts? And in a situation like what Diana's talking about, that's important because we want to make sure that that money is going to the best possible places and the places that we need it the most. But many of us are going to vote for Dennis because we watched school board meetings during COVID where the experts from the health department said what we should be doing here in Carroll County, and Dennis was one of the only people who would listen to them. So that's what we need. We need to know that the people who we're electing are going to be willing to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. And when they do, listen to the people who know more than they do.
Anybody else? So I'm going to say something now, even though I'm not supposed to, but it's never stopped me before. Does anybody know that in the last couple of months, Johnny Olszewski delivered a check for $1 million to our Veterans Independence Project? I know that just a week or so ago, Chris Van Hollen and Johnny were up here and they gave close to $1 million to McDaniel for the nursing program and a similar amount to Carroll Community College for a plumbing practical program. So, in light of that, despite some of the things that our leaders do in Carroll County, we are getting great support. And in that vein, I want to turn the mic over to Kira, who represents Congresswoman Alfred, who has also been very good to our
Hi everybody, my name is Kira Mahoney. I'm Congresswoman Sarah Alfred's political director. How many of you know that Sarah Alfred is your congresswoman in Carroll County? Yes. Okay, love that. I asked because we actually only have 4 precincts in Carroll out of, oh God, I don't know how many there are total, but we basically have like for the communities kind of bordering Howard County that are suburbs of Mount Airy and Sykesville. But yes, as we were talking about the federal earmarks and stuff, Congresspeople, I'm also here in my political capacity, not official office capacity. So the grants and bringing money home, that's very much on the official side. The Congresswoman's team that's paid by the American tax dollar does that work for you. And I know that we have committed as an office to make sure that even though we have a small portion of Carroll County, actually most of our district, we have all of Howard County and all of Anne Arundel north of like Annapolis, basically like cuts up half just for context. But making sure that we do secure an earmark for usually Mount Airy. Every cycle is kind of something that we've been trying to do. And how that happens is, right, the Congressman Olszewski, Chris Van Hollen, Angela Alsobrooks, they take tours. They visit your communities, your businesses. I know this, Sarah has done a few downtown tours in Mount Airy to find out what they need, right? And that's how they come to those determinations about what's getting funded and working with state and local partners. But because I'm actually here in my campaign capacity, I wanted to talk about some of the activities that the Congresswoman will be doing in Carroll County and just across Maryland and actually nationally this summer. So Sarah used to be the president of her own local Democratic club in Annapolis, the D30 Club. That means she's an organizer at heart. She subscribes to being a do something Democrat. And honestly, the most effective way to turn out the vote is direct voter contact, door knocking, is kind of our preferred way to do that. So the Congresswoman and I will be helping lead this effort. We are doing a door knock in Sykesville on May 9th at 1 p.m. alongside Megan Felber, to begin at least. And so that, I really invite you, and I think this is a big year for Carroll County, if I can stump for a second, to try to do some door knocking. If you have not done it before, I promise it is really not that scary. I've been with Sarah for 2 years now. This is my second cycle with her. And I actually got to do a lot of work with Miri and Amanda for Board of Ed in the 2024 cycle. I actually didn't door knock with them up here, but did a lot of like their digital and other things to help them out. But door knocking is not that scary, and I totally invite you to come out in May with us, to try for the first time, right? I mean, you have to do something for the first time, and we want to get these voters out this cycle, so just don't be afraid to try. My email, if anyone needs it right now, is Kyra, K-Y-R-A, at alfredformaryland.com. That's Kyra, K-Y-R-A, at alfredformaryland.com. You can also go to the Congresswoman's website and email like our info@alfred email to get details on this, and we'll also be posting up this opportunity. This first door knock that we have basically scheduled for right now. I'll be honest, we are playing in a lot of primaries and generals across the third congressional district. Carroll County, because most of these people up here do not have primaries, we will probably be focusing more once June 24 is over and we get some of our friends in Howard and Anne Arundel, especially across the finish line first. And then I'm really lobbying to come back here and do what we can to see how much we can flip in Carroll. But I don't want to take any of your amazing volunteers away from you, but I will just let you know that we're also planning to go to Pennsylvania this summer. The Congresswoman and myself and our team are going to organize a few door knocks up in like York County. Janelle Stelson is a fabulous candidate running to unseat Scott Perry. She came within like a couple hundred votes last cycle. So we're trying to bring that back. We also might be going all the way up to Scranton. We're figuring that out. I think you should actually stay here in Carroll County and try to volunteer for these amazing people. Like, actually don't go to PA. But if you're curious about what we're doing to try to flip the House Representatives, and I know that we'll be working closely with the Olszewski team as well to make sure that we have a check on the president come, January 2027. Right now, but yes, these candidates, if they're not asking, please give them money, give them your time, your energy. The only finite thing we have right now for them is time, and I'm just so excited to be here with a full room, and thank you for being brave enough to put your name on the ballot.
Eloquent and amusing and clever and all that good stuff. I also want to thank Kyra for speaking. I have a few more notes. I want to thank Carol for being the traffic cop. That was great for doing everything else. If you're not sure which precinct you live in, there's a website that you can go to, and we have a couple copies of the QR code. You can come up here. You can either take a picture of it, just type in the URL, or you can use your magic phone to use the QR code, which still makes no sense to me, but who cares? And finally, my last one is Cynthia Kulo Hut, wherever you are, I have your change. And thank you all for coming. Wait, we have another note.
Can I make a plug for the May meeting?
Oh, yes, by the way, I forgot to say, the board will be installed in the May meeting among our other business. Carol.
This ties right into our last two meetings. In May, we are really blessed to have the director and the deputy director from the Board of Elections here. Can answer all of your questions about locally, what impact some of the craziness at the federal level may have here. We hope none, but the whole issue with mail-in voting, drive-by voting, there's a lot of balls in the air right now. They'll also be able to help you with your whatever district you're in. I think they're going to bring some maps. They're going to be talking about ways to volunteer and actually earn money at elections, like being a judge. A lot of people, or some people here, have also been unpaid observers, which we need. I think that would cover it. But
Basically, the topic is election integrity, which in years past would have been a very boring meeting. I wish it was boring now. I think that ends the meeting, but if you want to hang out, wait, we got one more comment, go ahead.
So, Gail Witless is having her kickoff dinner tomorrow, and also we're having a united Tonytown Town Hall at the Tonytown Library on the 9th. That's on Thursday. And then there's the Board of Ed candidates running on state. They also have their kickoff on the 9th over in Danvers.
And you can hang around and chat for a little bit. The library will kick you out at about 10 to 8.
can I make one more pitch? You know, some of you don't know this, but the Central Committee has been picking up trash for the past 5 years at the community pond. And Gary is there all the time, Tom Scanlon's there, Rich is there. And I've been a regular, but I am really falling down on the job because I've got other things going on. So if anybody wants to get a few steps in, it's the third Saturday of the month, 10 a.m. Just show up at the community pond. Rich and somebody will have all the supplies, and it's a great time to commune with some good people, walk around the pond. So think about just dropping in, third Saturday of the month, and it should be on in the newsletter.
What time was that?
10 a.m. 10 a.m. Good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. All right. Anything else? We're gonna